going in today on this Tuesday evening. Everybody that's listening on YouTube, you already know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button for me and make sure that you share this video. I want to talk about Michael Jackson once again because it seems like every time we talk about this, something new comes out the next day. I mean, it seems like more and more people, are starting to, the tide's starting to change now. So people speaking now, saying, "Oh, this is wrong." So a lot of people starting to believe this now, man. I don't know what it is, man, but I'm gonna turn my attention to Michael Jackson's nephew, because he spoke up today and he left a very interesting statement, by way of TMZ. And I think we need to listen to this and hear out what the gentleman's saying, man. So here we go. Here's Michael Jackson's nephew.
I know you feel that the family side has not been getting enough attention. What would you say? What would be, if they come to you to interview you, what would you have told the documentary makers?
I would have said that Wade's, changed his story about 4 different times. I would say that Wade, decided he went to my uncle's memorial. He did tribute shows left and right for my uncle. The minute he did not get MJ1, he all of a sudden starts writing a book on the down low. No one wanted to buy the book, and then all of a sudden he comes up with these allegations.
You know that the filmmakers have said that Wade and James were not paid to appear in the film.
No, but there's a court appeal right now happening, and they're suing the estate for hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's in their best interest to get the public, on their side.
I'm curious what you thought about this backlash that Oprah is getting. Even before this interview was aired, it feels like, Michael Jackson's fans are just assuming that Oprah believes what Wade and James are putting forward.
Well, she watched this on her birthday on David Geffen's boat, and David Geffen, we know, is not the biggest MJ fan, and there's more to that I don't want to get into now, but I think the fans are a lot smarter than people give them credit for, and there's definitely a connection in there. Oprah's never been on our team.
So that clip by way of TMZ sitting down with Michael Jackson's nephew, I thought that was a very interesting clip. We had to play that here, on the podcast. What do you think, though, SamAnt, about this? This versus nephew, but then we'll turn our attention once again to Oprah. But first and foremost, what do you think about his nephew, standing up, defending, his uncle's honor?
Well, obviously someone has to in this situation because it's a smear campaign going on, whether you believe it or not. Now, like you said, there's outlets left and right jumping on this story and talking about it. And you see a lot of people kind of changing their views when it comes to Michael Jackson. And if you look at a story and you let it draw you in, and then they put in front of it based on the true story, and you really actually believe it, then I could see that. And that just kind of shows the gullibility. I don't even know if that's a word, but to show how gullible people really are. And it's very scary to see.
Right.
Now, you look at a man who's had some very, very peculiar behavior in Michael Jackson throughout the years. I think no one will deny that. But then you also have an individual who's been looked at by the FBI. You looked at an individual who's been in court numerous times over this situation and been acquitted. And then you look at the sources. Now, we talked about it yesterday, and we were very, very emphatic in saying we don't play around with pedophilia. We don't play around with people messing with children. That's not a game. And we don't give a fuck who it is, whether it be Michael Jackson, whether it had been the greatest of the great. If they were known for pedophilia, then all that shit is out the window. They deserve to be in a place in history of dogs. That being said, he never was seen or it was never proven that any of this happened. And the sources that are coming out and saying these things have been proven not to be credible, man. Over and over and over. And why is that being ignored? Now, in the R. Kelly situation, I don't mean to hold you up. I'm gonna finish up in a minute. But in the R. Kelly situation, when the R. Kelly documentary came out, and I know a lot of people are getting mad when I compare R. Kelly to Michael Jackson, but it's just so close in relation, and they're so close in correlation that you got to. When you look at R. Kelly, when the documentary came out, numerous girls started coming out. It was like an outpouring, like, damn, whoa, now this has to have some attention. What other boys you see coming out right now? All you see is people going, hey, Corey Feldman, is this true about what Michael Jackson? Nah, Michael Jackson never did anything to me. Macaulay Culkin, no, he never did anything to me. You never hear anything else. So it's just, it just raises the picture of, You ask yourself why they would do this. And he brought up David Geffen. I got David Geffen's thing here, American business magnate, producer, film studio executive, philanthropist. He co-created Asylum Records and Gave It Records, DGC Records. So he's a music guy. Hates Michael Jackson. You start kind of putting these pieces together. And he said they watched it on a boat, probably was having a little liquor. So he was able to, pretty much, sway. Then you got Oprah, she, being a victim, of molestation, I think when she was younger, you know what I mean? So she's dealing with that. Oprah actually, goes on to say, for me, this moment transcends Michael Jackson. It's much bigger than any one person. And Winfrey said this during an hour-long, conclusion of Neverland. He said, this is a moment in time that allows us to see this societal corruption. So when Michael Jackson's nephew, makes the correlation and says, does Oprah agree, that she believe Robeson and the other accusers? I think she does. She's facilitating this, and she's using this, as an opportunity, to I guess to heal the victims. I don't see anything wrong with that, but if it's that at the expense of tearing down an innocent man's legacy, I think that's a horrible thing that we see, a travesty that we see happening, right before. So I definitely want to salute, not to say because we weren't there. We weren't there. All we can do is just, like I said, before, is look at the information in front of us. And like his nephew alluded to, people are smarter than you think. We know, we see what it is. We see that anytime they try to deflect and say, well, we're not making any money, he tells us that, oh, okay, they got to appeal in so they can make money. Like you alluded to, the interviews, the different thing, maybe a book deal, which the guy tried to write, just flopped. These things equate to dollars, money, publicity, social media. They're going to make money from this. It hit HBO. It's just another bag. So it's sad, man, to see this. Once again, Michael Jackson is dead. He can't say anything. When they had the opportunity to put this man away and put that stigma onto him, he was found innocent. He walked off. So this is a sad situation. Now, another thing that surprises me though is some of our celebrities, I should say, activists in the community, that anytime something happens, they have something to say. And we'll speak about D.L. Hughley because he put a audio out. TMZ ran down on him. And I just want to play what he said real quick, and we can talk about this aspect as well.
Man, part one of HBO is leaving Neverland premiered yesterday. Yeah, everyone's talking about it. Right. Do you think it's going to affect Michael Jackson's legacy?
Well, it can't affect him. Here's what it's crazy to say let the man rest, because he is resting. Your idea of him is not, and who you believe he was. But I think that even if you don't believe that he's guilty of those things, it says a lot that society would allow our man knowingly to hang around young boys like that and be in this room and holding hands and all that kind of stuff, something we would never allow somebody else to do absent that staggering talent he had. And it says a lot about a society that was willing to look the other way.
Also, Oprah's getting a lot of backlash from this because, she's getting a lot of hate messages just because she's, interviewed those.
Oprah's a woman who's been sexually assaulted. Oprah's a woman who was an investigative journalist. Oprah's a woman who gave the documentary a chance, and she has an opinion on it. And I think that a lot of people who are weighing in or should at least see the documentary before they make a decision. It's dumb to answer a question before it's even asked.
And that's the part that I don't like. That I don't like that part when he says watch the documentary, because just because somebody makes a movie about you don't mean that it's true.
Wordplay, man. Yeah,
and it's like, are you serious, D.L. Hughley? But SamAnt, what do you think about D.L. Hughley? Speaking on this.
Well, it's the wordplay, like you said. Somebody puts out the word documentary, and you automatically are supposed to assume it as being truth, because you got people that are doing a documentary. Now, you got a D.L. Hughley, who I spoke about on this podcast, whether that had been, subliminally or just outright, that is just kind of throws out some questionable behavior on IG. You got these fake activists. Talked about this a lot, where they'll go ahead and spew all of this shit, but then when it's time to talk, they kind of go sideways and say some shit like, well, okay, well, if D.L. Hughley said it, this must be true. And if you listen to what D.L. Hughley said, great comedian, but does some questionable shit off. And we would love to have him on the podcast to sit here and talk to him directly. We've offered many a times, seen him on Vlad, but never seen him anywhere else. It's cool. But when you look at how he comes at it, Bill Cosby, negative. R. Kelly, all negative. And now this, all negative. But do you question Elvis Presley? He was a pedophile. He did some wild shit. Do we question the priest? Do we question all these other people when we have questionable people holding hands with children, doing this with children, doing that? Why aren't they held just as equally accountable? Also, and I'm not justifying that behavior. I'm not justifying the behavior of Michael Jackson. I can't explain that. But what I can explain is I don't know any black man under FBI investigation for 10 years. I don't know any black man that walked into a court for pedophilia 3 times in a row and got off all 3
that
times
actually did it
because there was no evidence.
Right. Or the alleged hush money. Talk about that. He said people were saying that they keep throwing this stuff around that Michael Jackson may have allegedly, paid to keep people quiet.
Well, Michael Jackson was a check cutter. That's what we're hearing.
No, I mean,
he was a check cutter.
Right.
And now that the money has dried up, now they want to start talking. Well, my question is, Michael Jackson has been dead for 10 years. So you mean to tell me his estate all of a sudden just said, now after 10 years, nah, fuck it, we're not going to pay them no more now. Or did they ever pay him? That's just, it's some real flaky shit in that. Now, like I said, I haven't seen the documentary. Excuse my ignorance for those who feel like you need to see the documentary to claim some truth over what you believe and what you don't believe in Michael Jackson, because nothing new came within the 10 years he was dead. We all knew this prior to. Right. Back in 2012, I believe, if I'm not, it wasn't 2012, but Robson, he had a situation where he was in there and admitted to lying and admitted to all of this shit prior to it happening. So it looks like a money grab. But Paul Mooney, legendary comedian, writer, he said something about Michael Jackson. Do not watch that bullshit about Michael Jackson. Play his music instead. I think a lot of people may take that out of context, but what you need to realize, his music and his music was powerful. And he had a lot of messaging within his music, a lot of love, a lot of positivity, a lot of they don't really care about us. And it was a lot of music with some subliminal messaging. And I think when you see a Paul Mooney saying play his music instead, he's not ignoring the fact of pedophilia. He's not ignoring anybody touching children. He's ignoring the fact that he knows that there may have been an agenda going on with Michael Jackson. Listen to his message instead.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? And he's also said things about Oprah Winfrey. He called her Aunt Jemima with a degree. So he said this shit back in 2010, 2011.
Right. No, I'm definitely, and shout out to Paul Mooney, for saying what he said, because we need guys who want to come out and just give it straight. That's why our podcast, was so popular at what we do, because we just give you the straight truth, no cut. And that's what Paul Mooney did. That's 100%, accurate. Like, these are allegations and nothing more, nothing less. Again, once they had the opportunity to get this man in court, he walked out of there. So all you can do is just go to his music now and you put it on a scale. It far outweighs what they're accusing him of. The joy that people get. You mentioned your son, the little kids that fall in love with his music. It's healing music. It's love music. You know what I mean? Anything, for good time, you put Michael Jackson in. Those allegations, man, fuck them. I just don't believe it at this point, man. And it's a sad thing. And I'm not even surprised. Because to me, this is a reoccurring theme that we see, with us. Oh God, let's end this conversation with, I'm gonna ask you a question, man. How often do we see our black entertainers, our black activists, whether that be in Hollywood, just in a public light, how often do we see them die with damn near $1 billion worth of assets? How often?
Not often. Nah. Michael Jackson is damn near there, if I'm not mistaken. He has like $1 billion worth of assets right now that he's sitting on. They are upset about that. Let's really think about it. Let's not just believe everything. That's the Sony catalog. We talk about that, what he owned, just his influence, see, it's one thing. Influence is huge. When you look at, what he was able to accomplish, just pretty much transcending any other star, any other musician that ever lived. He was probably the biggest ever. People passing out, crying, selling out arenas. Like, this dude was like, I don't want to say a god, how dare I use that word, but close to it. People, pretty much worship Michael Jackson. You can use that in a few ways, and he did it with his music, but now they're trying to pretty much turn it around and use it as a negative. That's why it's important, for people, to just listen to, his music, the great parts of it, and vibe out to it, and don't even feed into, what they're trying to do with the documentary and all that, and watch that and let that taint your image, of Michael Jackson at this point, man. Definitely. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Yes, sir. But you're tuned into the Uncensored Truth podcast with your brother, Old Guy.